You, me, the others. There's an attack coming from far away.
Not coming, Bruce. It's already here. The others. Where are they?
Arthur Curry, the Aquaman. It's on him.
Organic and biomechatronic body parts. He's a cyborg.
You should probably move. Barry Allen.
Whoever you're looking for, it's not me. You're the Batman?
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
One thing I can tell you is you got to be free.
My turn.
Come together. Right now. Come together. Right now.
Shall we?
It's good to see you playing well with others again. Just like a bat. I dig it. Maybe temporary. Yeah!
Hello everyone, and welcome to They Called This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. We're also proud members of Geek Vibes Nation. You can go visit them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Called This a Movie. I am Dan Aquino, and I am joined by my good friend, Mark Myers. Say hello, Mark.
Oh, boy. I made a mistake when I asked you to do this movie today. But
I think the world made a mistake.
Yeah. I'm excited to do this podcast. Don't get me wrong. It was a mistake. It's not a bit. I just want to get something out of the way that has nothing to do with the movie. I watched it streaming on TNT's app, which means I had commercials.
Ooh.
So I watched Justice League. You're going to get into specifics in a second. With commercials, because you can't skip them on the app. Oh, God. It added like 15 minutes to the movie. But then again, that's only half of what the Snyder Cut, right?
Right.
But I digress.
Right. Yes, this week we watched the Justice League at the behest of our good friend Anthony Del Vecchio. He cannot be with us today, unfortunately. He is recovering from some surgery. No, he's doing fine. He'll be back next week, hopefully. Very much alive to boss us around next week. But get well soon, Ant, because you have to edit this podcast. So yeah, as Mark alluded to, we are covering 2017's Justice League, or the Justice League, starring Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, and Ezra Miller, as well as, why can't I remember his name? Jason Momoa. Of course, Jason Momoa.
Amy Adams. There's so many.
There's so many. But
and by the way, can I say that it's been 3 years that we've been hearing about the Snyder Cut?
Feels like an eternity, dude. I thought this movie came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The CGI backs that up, by the way. The CGI is terrible in the movie. We sat down and we watched this hunk of junk. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it twice. I saw it in theaters where I was very disappointed, just as disappointed the second time. How many times have you gotten to see this, Mark?
This is my first time.
First time.
So I haven't seen Batman v Superman either. So that's why I texted you. I was like, spoilers for Batman v Superman. I was like, did Superman die at the end of Batman v Superman? Because they opened this movie with that.
Right, and that's part of the problem with Justice League, and I'm going to
Yeah.
touch on that in a little
I'm
while.
going to get it. But
Yeah, but objectively, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is the better movie. The plot is still kind of incoherent, but it's not a jumbled mess like the Justice League. But I digress. We're going to get into that.
yeah,
So
it's like the old South Park joke of, choosing between a douche and a turd sandwich
right.
between Batman v Superman and Justice League.
It always baffles me. And I think because Anthony will always say, everything's a cult. And I think there's no better example than the Zack Snyder movie, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League. Obviously, with Joss Whedon taking over for Zack Snyder due to family issues, very unfortunate what happened, obviously. And
Yeah.
we wouldn't dare make fun of what happened there. But,
Yeah.
people really, really die on this DC hill where, are the movies terrible? Sometimes, but it's blind patriotism towards these movies where there are no flaws.
Yeah, so here's I had mentioned to you in the pre-show, I don't know how much of a hot take this is, but the one thing I noticed, this being the first DC film besides Suicide Squad and, Harley Quinn, and, this was supposed to be their Avengers, these two movies. I didn't see. Yeah. This is my first of those two seeing. They don't seem to, I think the word I used is, they don't seem to trust or understand the characters. Now, I'm not saying from a, comic book, they need to stay faithful to comic book, because we've seen Marvel not do that, and it turned out wonderful.
Right.
What I mean is, if these characters are supposed to be brooding and emotional and, a lot darker and, live in that film noir kind of gutter, especially Batman, is supposed to live in, let them live there. They try too much to be Marvel in certain aspects where they think what people want. Example, I'll just start here because it's my main topic. And one of the reasons why I was interested in Justice League outside of the superhero thing is it all comes to pass with, Ezra Miller's performance as the Flash. Now, Ezra Miller is amazing as an actor. Every other movie I've seen him in, he gets, the character. I mean, he's got two completely different performances. You have, we need to talk about Kevin, where he plays a really dark serial murderer child. And then there's, Perks of Being a Wallflower, where he plays the affable, lovable Patrick in that movie, and always quick and witty. And for some reason, now I don't know much about the Flash, so I could be talking out of my ass completely here. But they introduced this whole backstory with the father and it killing his mother, but it was frame job and all that stuff that I guess I'm supposed to know if I know Barry Allen. But what they do, instead of making that character more of a, hard-hitting, sort of dive into that character, they try to make him like this socially awkward, no friends, sort of, trying to be the funny man in the movie. And it just doesn't work. Because no one else in the group wants to be funny.
Yeah, he's essentially the Peter Parker to the Justice League, and that's how they make him out to be now. In the comics, he is a smart aleck. He's fast-mouthed, fast-moving man, and he uses that humor to kind of throw his enemies off balance. But you're right, here it just comes off as really annoying because no one else is buying into it.
Yeah.
I think the main problem was they were playing catch-up to Marvel. So instead of establishing, larger-than-life character, you kind of just throw Cyborg in there. You throw Aquaman in there. You throw the Flash in there. Yeah. And we don't have a feel for them yet. Cyborg is not a doom and gloom character. A lot of people will probably know him best from the Teen Titans cartoon, or even the comic books. He made a name for himself on Teen Titans, and he's more of a, he's like a jock kind of guy, and he's fun-loving. He's, booyah, that's his catchphrase. We get it here, but it's so forced, and everything is just a jumbled mess. That's the best way to put it.
Feels like 3 of the characters in this movie are basically starring in part of their origin film more than starring in the ensemble film. I think that's what makes Avengers great, is that I believe all the main characters, maybe all of them in the first Avengers, all had their whatever you think of the Ed Norton, all had their solo movie out before that came to play. So the whole Barry Allen having to show you that he's quick-witted, fast with a quick quote, making jokes about that he eat a lot because he run a lot of calories off, all that stuff. Hasn't been established yet. So when you have Diana and Bruce and Clark, for as little as he's in it, already established and have this devastating backstory from the last movie, they don't mesh. Even Jason Momoa, who might be the best of the three new characters, they seem like two separate groups in this movie. And I think there's a lot of DC, like you said, trying to play catch up in this, because I'm watching this movie and it's not so much that, there's nothing there. Like there feels like so much wasted potential. Like my two favorite scenes in the movie, and they're real short, are, Diana and Bruce after they resurrect, I think it's after they resurrect Superman. And they're having that conversation, where she pops his shoulder back in and all that, and they just let the emotion breathe that they built in the last movie. And then they also do it a little later with Lois and Clark back on the farm. And I'm like, why didn't they do more of that? You have a 2-hour movie here and you spend most of it like getting the band together and making jokes. Like, what was the point of that first movie if you weren't going to, use any of the emotion from it? I don't know. You've seen the first movie, so I don't know if I'm correct in my thinking here, but that's all I kept feeling watching this movie.
I'll tell you one thing before we go into our promos and the plot. This movie produced two good things. Only two good things. One is the cover of the poster, which is based off the Alex Ross painting of the Justice League. That's fire. Awesome. And the Come Together cover from Gary Clark Jr. It slaps, as Anthony would say, our good friend Anthony. And that's it. That's the only two good things about this movie. But so what do you say, Mark? We're going to dive into it now. So before we do, just giving a quick shout out to our good friend Tia from Geek Vibes Nation. I lost the plug for it, and I've said it enough times where you think I would know it, but my brain capacity is very limited. So just going to give a quick shout out to Tia and her podcast, The Top 10 with Tia, where her and her friends have a weekly podcast where they cover the top 10 movie subjects. This week it was the top 10 Quentin Tarantino moments. Oh. So go check that out. It's a weekly podcast. Tia is a good friend of our podcast, and she's just a good person all around.
Yeah, I wonder if I heard somebody promote a podcast they have, if she'd be willing to branch out from movies and television. Somebody said they do a podcast with their friends, like top 5 lists, and they did top 5 hose head settings. So I don't know if she's looking for some special episodes of doing really wacky topics like that, but it just made me laugh and made me think of her podcast when I heard that promo.
There's only one way to find out. We'll get in touch with her afterward. All right, we're going to step away for a little bit. We're going to hear some words from friends of the podcast, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. It involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more...
Or you could tell him about the time I kicked your ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell them.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about 4 friends separated by distance but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
Oh man, I love those guys. I'm a big fan of their show.
Yeah, it's always great to have great friends to listen to our podcast and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get a chance, go listen to them. Just, you got to support the small podcasters. That's what I always say. That's my motto.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to jump into 2017's Justice League. Budget of $300 million, cumulative worldwide gross of $657 million. It has a Rotten Tomato score of 40%. That's a very paltry 40. And an IMDb score of 6.4. All right, so we open up with some bad CGI explaining Steppenwolf, how he's trying to take over the world using 3 mother boxes. We get a big battle shot of Atlanteans, Amazonians, men, and a Green Lantern. I guess the Corps couldn't spare more than 1 Green Lantern, unfortunately. But that was pretty cool. I remember being in the movie, seeing the Green Lantern come around. I was like, oh, that's cool. Green Lantern's going to be in this. But that was it. So Steppenwolf winds up losing, and the mother boxes are separated. One going to the Amazonians, one to the Atlanteans, and one goes to the world of men, who just decide to bury theirs in the dirt somewhere. Meanwhile, the Amazonians and the Atlanteans have theirs kept in like a big, palace surrounded by guards. And it's just like men, right? We're like, just throw it in the ground. So we fast forward to present day, where the world is still mourning the death of Superman, which is weird because the last movie, most people hated him in Batman v Superman. A lot of people thought he was a false god, and he wasn't exactly in the public's best. I guess they didn't trust him very well.
Yeah, they had this tracking shot, which is when the text came out, just comes up and the paper just says Superman is dead.
Right.
And it just keeps going, and I'm like, wait, what? There wasn't even like a reference at all in that opening?
Yeah, they're really banking on you seeing Batman v Superman. And then we just get like a slow-mo montage of people being shitty to each other, people stealing, fighting, there's wars going on, Donald Trump is the president. It's just, Superman, you let us down.
Yeah, why did you leave us, big, powerful alien man?
Which is insane, because the whole point of him dying was to inspire hope in the world, he sacrificed himself so that we could live, and then we just devolve into, animals. Then we cut to Gotham City, where Batman is hunting a burglar, which is a pretty cool scene in itself, and, it's very Batman-esque, and I think they did a good job with it, where he's there for a second, the burglar sees him, and he looks away, and then Batman's gone, and then the next scene, Batman shows up and captures him. But then we find out he's using the criminal as bait, because somehow he figured out that the Parademons are attracted to fear. Now, it's never explained how he figured that out. I know he's the world's greatest detective, but could have used a little bit of backstory there, something, instead of him just saying they're attracted to fear.
The one thing I love in this movie is how much they shit on Batman.
I have that in my notes.
Being the only one without a superpower, and it is perfect. It's how I would write the Justice League movie. It's just sort of like everybody go, what the fuck are you doing here?
There's a cool scene in the animated movie, I think it's Apocalypse War, where Green Lantern says, wait a minute, you're not just a guy in a bat costume, are you? And, Bruce turns around and smiles. But in the animated movie, he's actually badass, whereas in this movie, he's kind of like a joke.
Yeah.
Right? He holds his own against a lot of stronger enemies. So,
in a better told story, you could have this be the explanation of going, hey, Bruce is human. He's going to break down and get old. He can't, he's got to figure things out.
Right. He can't keep it up for much longer.
Yeah. That would have been a great subplot in this movie, is just him, except he alludes to it like 3 times, and then that's it. The rest of the time, they just shit on him.
Yeah, he makes a big speech later on in the movie saying he can't lead, but it's kind of just thrown in there, like you said. So Batman captures the Parademon, and it conveniently explodes, leaving the exact shape of the mother boxes. Now, that was like my first facepalm moment in the movie. Or actually second, behind the aforementioned CGI Superman lip.
Yeah.
So why do they explode leaving behind the mother boxes? Is that just like a conveniently placed plot hole? This is what we're looking for.
Yeah. For those of us that played, I think it's Dark Souls 2. That scene reminded me of what's called the Pharaoh's Lockstones. It's actually a thing that you find stones throughout the world and you put it in there and then the wall disappears and there's something behind it, either terrible or great. It's Dark Souls.
Okay.
But it's a 3, eye hole. You put the stone in the mouth part.
It sounds more plausible than this, to be honest.
Yeah. Like that was in the world, but that was the first thing I thought of when it exploded and I left behind. I was like, huh.
So now that facepalm moment is followed up immediately with another facepalm moment where Batman jokes around with the burglar who he just captured, and then he just leaves. He leaves the burglar behind to, do as he pleases.
Got bigger fish to fry.
Right. Probably burgle again. So
Burgle again.
Batman is slipping in his old age.
Yeah.
Next, we get to Steppenwolf. He is attracted to Earth being vulnerable since Superman's death, and he arrives in Amazon, where we get another poorly rendered CGI scene and him capturing the first mother box.
Yeah. This entire scene, a lot of this, I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel slightly weird about, when I criticize the Marvel movies, I've seen most of the lead-up movies. I didn't see many of the DC ones. So I'm like, I guess maybe this Wonder Woman scene would have hit better if I'd seen Wonder Woman. But
Not really.
It's like one of those moments where you just go, oh, that's right. Do they make, again, I'm trying not to make you remember Batman v Superman and trying not to talk too much about it, but I think it's relevant. Got any conversation with Justice? Do they make any reference to these boxes in the other two in that movie?
Yes. At the end of Batman v Superman, we do get I think it was a deleted scene of Steppenwolf coming down. But again, I think it was deleted scene.
Okay.
So yes and no.
Okay.
But
because that was my first
didn't
thought.
have to see it to really have this scene.
It wasn't even that. It's like how things are introduced in. I keep going back to Marvel because it's the apples to apples comparison.
Right.
Whenever they introduce something, most of the time there are some mistakes because they're not perfect. It's not a surprise. It's not like all of a sudden, oh yeah, that thing that's relevant to the plot. Oh yeah, it's been here all along. Sort of thing. At some point, you can sort of follow that, or you see it in a post-credit scene or something. Like I'm thinking Thor's hammer and things like that.
Yeah. They leave you the breadcrumbs, and it's easy to follow along with. This is just kind of you have to know.
That's why I was wondering if those boxes were like when they were touring, Amazonia. We probably have to watch the movie again, to be honest. Like they walk by and go, oh, that's the room where Mother is kept, or something like that.
Nope, not a mention in Wonder Woman or Batman v Superman, really. It's just, they throw it at you and you're supposed to know. But, it's kind of
the cool thing about this fight scene, besides the fact that, even though they get their ass kicked, it just shows how badass the Amazonians are. That this thing is just kicking everyone's ass, but they're still like shooting it and riding it and going, I'm going to be the one to take them down.
To be honest with you, this movie does a great disservice to the Amazonians. Wonder Woman does a much better job of showing you their capabilities and their culture. So this was just kind of to show, to introduce Steppenwolf really, and present the big bad is back. And he looks awful. He looks so bad. He looks like a PlayStation 3 villain.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he popped in. I was like, oh, that's the big villain?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, he comes in a big blue light, and we've never seen that in movies.
It's just this whole opening scene, and I'll take the whole thing up into the mother box in Amazonia as a, probably something that seemed better on paper, maybe. Or maybe they, and this again, is not a way of saying, the reason we're doing this with the announcement of the Snyder Cut, but maybe things were taken out that would have made it better. Now, I don't know if it's a thing where, like a final cutting room floor thing, sort of, or like in the writing process, the writer, was like, we don't really need that scene.
I don't give them any credit. I think what you got is pretty much what was planned.
I think a lot of bad decisions could have been made in terms of what to highlight and what not to. Because I know the writing process when you're trying to edit yourself, sometimes you make good decisions, sometimes you don't. Sure. But they they seem to make all the wrong decisions in this. And I can't even see the reasonings behind it. I for the first time in the history of a movie, I would have liked a good 5-minute exposition scene from someone explaining what the hell was going on outside of, like, they do it real quick when I think is it Diana's explaining it to him?
Yeah, at one point, Diana explains to Bruce, like, the whole history of what's going on.
Yeah, but it's done so quickly. Like I would like to have seen of them all together and her, I know it seems really cheesy, her in front of some kind of screen or something, going, this is Steppenwolf. Like, I'm doing the Minority Report thing.
No.
You know,
no,
like,
I hear you.
You know, and just, like, because half of these, like, we'll get into it later, but half of the time, like, there's no outside of this is him, let's go. Like, there's no introductions or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a perfect example of them introducing this whole villain that, you know, is barely explained even in the movie.
Right.
There's a lot of mistakes with this and a lot of untapped potential. But I digress. Continue with the plot.
No worries. So after that scene, we cut to Wonder Woman stopping a museum heist because all of a sudden we have wandered into the Thomas Crown affair. You know, all those high-tech museum heists that still go down in the world today. And then she receives a warning from her mother that Steppenwolf has returned. So she winds up joining with Bruce to begin their Nick Fury search to recruit fellow heroes, Barry Allen, Arthur Curry, and Victor Stone. Yeah,
so this whole moment, they try and be a little too clever with the writing. I mean, I love, the Wonder Woman scene's real great, where she sort of, you know, stops the... It looks like they were just going to they would just want to cause chaos because they thought the world should go back to, you know, the beginning of the time and all that, because the holy fear or whatever the guy says is what the world needs right now. And then
it just seemed like an unnecessary way to introduce Diana.
Yeah, it's just
we
hey,
have to
Wonder
throw
Woman,
in an
bing,
action
bing, bing, yay!
Right.
But the good introduction, which is probably what they should have done originally, was, you know, with the it's one of the moments where I'm like, okay, whenever they wrote this section of dialogue, they got it. Like, they go, oh, we need to sound the warning flame or whatever they call it. And someone goes, well, it hasn't been lit in 5,000 years. Do you think, you know, men will even know what that means when you do it? And all, you know...
you don't even need men to know what it means. You need Wonder Woman to know what it means.
Yeah, basically she goes, I don't care about men. She'll know. And I'm like, that's a great line. Like, I was like, I get it. Okay. And they could have introduced, you know, Wonder Woman that way. Like, just done that scene.
Right. Yeah, you go from Steppenwolf capturing the mother box to the Queen saying, you know, we have to warn her. Like, oh, do you think she'll know? Like, she'll know. And then they set the warning.
And then you can cut to Bruce doing his thing with Alfred in the plane, where they have the conversation about Diana, and they make the snarky response like, oh, do you want me to send a note that says check yes or no for it? And then he can go, you know, do what he has to do, and then Diana shows up, you know, like she does. Like,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's my thing where it was meant they wanted those moments. They want the, like, cheering at the movie theater. Like, Wonder Woman comes on screen, yeah!
Yeah, absolutely. This movie severely lacked applause breaks, I'll say.
Yeah, they wanted them, but they didn't hit.
Right. Yeah, well, bad pacing and all that, and bad writing. But, so now the next part kind of, I don't understand how it works. So, Bruce and Diana, they split up trying to recruit the team members. So, Bruce travels to an undisclosed location. I forget what the town is, but he's recruiting Aquaman. So he leaves Gotham. He has a clean-shaven face. He arrives in the fishing village, full beard. Was he gone for months? Don't you think Steppenwolf would have finished by now, if that were the case?
Yeah, I wonder. I'll have to. Not that I will watch it again, but just to see the explanation there. But even that scene could have been so much better. In that Jason Momoa is real good in it, by the way. Just being like that sort of, he knows that Bruce is looking for him, and that Bruce kind of knows it's him that he's looking for, but he's still going to be a dick the entire time. You know what I mean?
Right.
With that, because he obviously stands out amongst the people in that room. But the whole thing, they could have done it a lot better, like not even have him there. you know, have him do his whole speech in front of the Icelandic people, and, you know, they sort of shoo him away or something, and, you know, I don't know. It just having him there is just like, okay, I know who that is. Like,
I just like how he immediately tells Aquaman that he's Batman, and Aquaman doesn't even seem to really, like, oh, guy dresses like a bat, cool. Like, come on. He just revealed his secret identity for nothing.
Again, if they would have done did Aquaman come out first before this? Or?
No, it came out. I think it came out 2018.
Yeah, if they would, it's like the same thing with Flash when we get to him next.
Right.
If they would have done the origin movie beforehand, you could have explained why, and maybe they do in Aquaman because I haven't seen it. Maybe they explain why he's kind of nonchalant about, oh yeah, this guy is like, you know, revealed his secret identity to me.
Right.
Like, oh well, you know,
whatever.
You know, like without that explanation, you're just kind of like, does he like see superheroes all the time?
Well, I was gonna say it would make more sense for Aquaman to just be like, I have no clue who that is. I live 50,000 miles under the sea, dude. I'm sorry. I don't get out very, very often.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you dress as a bat, fine. But I think instead of just having him be like I don't know, I don't care, it was more like, again, shitting on Batman, which is what most of this movie was.
Right.
About the costume. Which,
guy dresses
by the
as
way, it's the one comedy moment that kind of pays off is when he does show up, you know, in full Aquaman gear, and he lands and he goes, "Oh, you really are just a bat."
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, copying off of the Apocalypse War, kind of.
Yeah.
So next we go to now. This is another weird scene because as Diana is looking for Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, he winds up finding her and asks to meet with her, only to reject her in joining the team. Which, why would you even reach out to her if you know you don't want to be found?
So I think the best way to take this whole section of the movie is we should just jump, you know, just talk about them all together, because they all just sort of jump from one to the other without much of a long scene. So I think they follow Bruce first, which means we hit Flash first. But we'll get back to him because I want to talk a lot longer about Flash than anyone else. With this scene, what it does is it shows what I think the movie is trying to say is that when Superman's not around, Diana's the leader of this group.
100%.
Like when Cyborg pops up on the screen, he goes, "Why would I tell you?" or whatever, you know, and she was like, "Well, you'd be dead at the lake if I wanted to kill you." Like, that line is badass. Like, she makes no knowledge in that scene with Batman that she noticed there.
But that's kind of dumb. I feel like, you know, she should have maybe given a little glance or something, just like a knowing, okay, like I understand we're being watched. But just having her say, "Oh, I could have killed you at the lake." Like, all right, well, we didn't know that you knew he was there, so we're just going to take your word. She could be lying. She could be like, "Oh, I knew that."
I wonder. I just thought the way she was badass, but well,
she is badass. So
the shot, I don't know. It's one of those things where you could have easily gotten that shot, but I think maybe they were on like it needs to be 2 hours time frame, and they just cut out every little thing they thought was unnecessary. Like even a 5-second glance from Diana, they were like, we don't really need that. She explains it later in the movie, you know, sort of thing. We needed 15 seconds here.
You're right. So we got to fill in some time.
We got to cut it there. We got to get down. But yeah, I think what they were trying to establish, but I don't think they had any idea what they wanted to do with Cyborg, which explains his whole his arc felt like a whiplash in a sense that he went from being, "I'm not gonna do anything," to like being like the pseudo like rah guy for everything. You know, it's like, yeah sure, we'll raise Superman. Yeah,
right.
Sounds like a great idea. I did all the calculations.
Right. Yeah, it's weird character turns for sure.
Yeah, and this scene explains that is because, you know, she does the thing where she wants to see him, you know, she says old-fashioned, you know, thing, but I think she just wants to make sure he's real. And then he's still trying to be brooding, but the character, you know...
He's not a mopey character, you know, he's more of a... And I get what they're trying to do, like, oh, you know, his life was ruined by this accident, now he's a machine, he's sad... Meanwhile, you know, he can fly, he can read every computer in the world, you know.
Yeah,
it is what it is, man. suck it up.
The scene with his dad is fine. Like,
Yes.
that's one of those scenes that, that I was talking about, where it wasn't done well in terms of, the writing and stuff, but the scene of them, him going, there's a language in my head I don't understand. And, I can fly now. I couldn't do that yesterday. Like, sort of, like, he's still freaking out. But to me, in my head, that character, as soon as Diana contacts him and gives him a purpose, being a former athlete, should have been the trigger for him to go, you know what, yeah, I'm going to do something, rather than be like, oh, no, screw off,
Right.
Until the stakes got raised,
Sure.
But, yeah, and then even, with the, as we move along to, the final one here with Flash, like I said in the beginning, they introduce a pretty good storyline, which is probably in the storyline with probably falsely accused father, of murder and all that. And, and him with his speed, he could probably investigate it and all that. But he's still a kid, technically.
Right.
But they try and make him the comic relief instead of maybe just quick-witted.
Yeah,
And
it's 100% how his backstory goes. His father is framed for killing his mother, and he wants to investigate it. So that's why he becomes, he starts working for the police as his, secret identity and everything. But like you said, Bruce does succeed in recruiting the Flash after telling so many ungodly lame jokes. It's terrible. And he reveals his secret identity again. It's ridiculous. Batman cannot help in this movie revealing his identity. I think everybody knows at this point. I'm pretty sure Commissioner Gordon knows as well. Like,
I gotta say, the one chuckle I had is a little later in the movie, but we'll get to it.
So even in the comics and in the cartoons, the only person who knows his identity is Superman and Wonder Woman, because they're the Trinity, right? They're the big three. So he trusts them enough, but Flash doesn't know, Green Lantern doesn't know, none of them know. But, in the DCEU, Bob down the street knows. Like, oh, there's Bruce stopping another crime.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Wayne.
And it seems the only purpose served with letting him know he's Batman is for the joke in the car where he goes, "What's your superpower?" And Bruce goes, "I'm rich."
Yeah, trailer bait right there. You gotta put that in there.
The only reason it's there.
Yeah, 100%. So next we cut to Parademons invading Star Labs and capturing several scientists, including Cyborg's father, Silas. Meanwhile, Steppenwolf attacks Atlantis and easily just beats the shit out of Aquaman and steals the second mother box, which is not really guarded very well. We find out as we go along to the other mother boxes. So in Amazon, it was guarded by like a bunch of guards and a big, a big palace and everything. In Atlantis, it's just like a little room with a couple guards there, and they just, they're Swiss cheese defense.
Again, this is another scene in this movie that would have made better with the Aquaman movie already being out.
Absolutely.
Because they only mention it briefly when they talk about the three boxes being given to the three groups, is that you see them above water, in the thing, and it goes, oh, the Atlanteans were driven below ground, and that's all they say. Like,
yeah, it would have been nice to get a little background on their story and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And why it's in the water now and all that, and makes it harder to defend, essentially.
Well, this is DCEU. We don't explain things here, man. Just take it at face value.
Yeah, and since we're getting to a point where she'll become relevant, I want to say the useless scene, only because they don't expand on it more. Again, I'm talking like this movie should be... Maybe I'm used to Avengers movies that are 2:15, 2:30. But the only scene that Lois Lane is in the entire movie outside of, pre-Superman coming back is like basically going, hey, we're still in this movie. We're going to be relevant later.
Right. Yeah, they just do a quick walk by with Diane Lane. Like, hey,
they're just in the office talking and going, oh, we're sad. Superman's dead.
Right.
And that's it. Like if they would have done that a little longer, like if they try to do the emotional thing where she gets in the car with the dog and you see the sign as she drives away, maybe have Lois there or, have Lois at the new apartment,
Sure.
If you're going to introduce them, just it's the old thing, showing rather than telling. And a lot of these cases would have made this movie so much better, maybe a little shorter in some instances.
Possible.
Yeah. It's just, essentially the only reason they're in this scene is to remind you who they are and what their importance is.
Right.
And maybe it's just me knowing how these movies work and movies in general, but I knew as soon as Bruce talked about his big gun coming out, I was like, oh, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah. Again, one of the greatest minds in the DC history is just reduced to, a typical gumshoe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you're so smart, Bruce. Thanks.
Yeah, and it's sad in a sense that it's only because when you put this side by side with the way they did Avengers, in terms of, it's hard to keep going back to that, but it felt like the rushing to get to Justice League is what hurt this movie more than anything, because you don't have as much story and information to draw on in this movie as you did with Avengers, the first one, because all those movies had been out beforehand. You had things to pull from to, introduce characters. You had chances in those other movies where other characters could have met each other or learned about other ones. Because I want to get to this here, because this is when the team sort of starts forming. None of them, short of an introduction of everything happens off screen. Short of an introduction of, this is Barry, that's Victor, Bruce, Diana. All right, we're good. What are we doing? And then later in the movie, it's like, no, Victor! Like they've been friends forever.
First of all, don't ever apologize for bringing up the superior Avengers movie, all right? That's the gold standard. That's what we hold these kind of ensemble movies to, and that's that's not their fault.
It was the thing that frustrated me the most watching. I'll say the hate is slightly overrated for Justice League, because I think it's as a film, if it came out without the Avengers here, it would have been fine. But it's got that comparison that makes it much worse, look much worse. And it's just like it has to be an executive decision. That's the only thing I can think of. Is it some executive just wanted I bring you the example, not to bring video games into this, but it probably works the same in a movie. And the thought was always with those video game magazines was that it didn't matter, how much an executive knew the game or thought their game was any good. All they wanted to do was walk down the airport and go, haha, that's my game, and point to the magazine.
Right.
That's what I felt these Warner Brothers, it's Warner Brothers, right? That's
correct.
DC?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Warner Brother executives just wanted to walk down and point to Entertainment Weekly and go, haha, look, we're doing one of those movies too, after, Avengers came out. And it was...
If Avengers doesn't exist, we're not getting the Snyder Cut, and, this movie just gets forgotten.
Yeah, there's so many... Everybody forgets, and we're old enough to remember this. There is a whole slew of superhero movies for the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
That came out that were terrible, or, depending on who you talk to. Ben Affleck
being in one of them.
Yeah, and Chris Evans being in one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
two of them.
Ben Affleck's track record is not very good. If I'm him, I'd never put on another costume again. No. Just sit there, make out with Ana de Armas, and count it as a W, man.
Yeah. The thing with Affleck is it's what a lot of this movie. The only two that don't suffer from this, outside of I really want that standalone Flash movie and probably not going to get it, is that the two that had the chance to establish their characters actually come out looking the best, which is, Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa, because there's nothing to compare them to. Like, Affleck has all those Bruce Waynes before him that he gets compared to, whether you like all of them or not, and Robert Pattinson's going to have the same thing.
Yeah, it's tough to be Batman.
Yeah, I mean, everybody hated Keaton before '89 Batman came out.
That's true. He's still my favorite to this day.
Yeah, so it's like you have all that, and then Supermans are all compared, throughout, but not having a Wonder Woman outside of Linda Carter on the TV show, which was a completely different character,
right.
In terms of how they portrayed her, help, Godot's character not seem like it was wrong timing. Like, I'm saying this to drag to the point that if Affleck would have been the Batman after Clooney instead of...
Oh, yeah, it would have been much better.
His performance was like, this is a better Batman, because it's closer to, it's closer to what Nolan's Batman, which I consider the, Christian Bale's performance as Batman. But that's a whole other podcast we discuss. Batman, Affleck's Batman is sort of the bridge between the two.
Right.
And the fact that he came after Bale just makes it look like a worse portrayal. It's like everything else in this movie. It's like, well, that would have been good if it wasn't for this.
Right, yeah, and it's tough to follow up. But anyway, going back to the plot, as Mark alluded to, the League starts to form, and Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash are summoned by Commissioner Gordon, who is portrayed by J.K. Simmons and is totally wasted in this movie.
Which, by the way, I love J.K. Simmons, but you can't have him... it's not his fault. He's got to take the pay where he gets it. But I don't know. It's you can't be J. Jonah Jameson and then be Commissioner Gordon.
I don't know. I love him in both roles. I think if they had made the Ben Affleck Batman movie and having J.K. Simmons as Gordon, I think that would have been phenomenal. I do like Jeffrey Wright. I think he's a great actor too, and I think he's going to nail the part of Commissioner Gordon. But yeah, I think J.K. Simmons was wasted, and it is just another cameo. Like, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen if you support the movie, and that's probably the saddest part of not getting a Batman movie is not seeing J.K. Simmons.
Again, it's another thing. I was just thinking about this. If he would have came before Gary Oldman's, Gordon,
right?
You'd be like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a problem with any Commissioner Gordons that have been portrayed to film. So
I don't remember the Commissioner Gordon in '66 Batman, but
it was like your run-of-the-mill Irish cop. Oh no, wrong. He was like an older man. I'm sorry, but he was good too. But they had a cop who was just like your beat cop from Victoria era London. So they assemble on the roof of the GCPD, and Gordon informs them that there have been Parademon sightings and that they're using an underground base. Out of nowhere, Cyborg joins the team, stating that Steppenwolf has his father held hostage and is using him to find the last mother box. So after this, we get the team entering the underground.
I want to mention.
Go ahead.
It's the one scene that made me laugh and showed what, given the right material, Ezra Miller could do, is when they do this classic scene where Commissioner Gordon looks away and turns around and they're all gone.
I don't know why it was all of them. That's Batman's.
Yeah, and he turns around and flashes, which is the point. The Flash is still there, and he goes, oh, they all vanished.
It would have just made more sense if Batman, and then the rest of the team are like, what happened? And Gordon could say, he tends to do that, right? I mean,
that's what I meant. Like, again, it was another one of those scenes where...
It could have been much better. It could have been funnier.
Almost there.
Yeah, it could have been funnier if it was just Batman doing it, because everyone knows Batman does that. It's in every movie, except, like, I didn't know Wonder Woman was super stealthy, and Cyborg is a friggin' machine and was able to move.
As we talk through it, I think it would have been better if it was Cyborg and Flash left behind.
Yeah,
because at least Diana and Bruce, like, she would know he does that, so she would do it too.
Right.
Sort of thing.
And plus they're the most, again, they're the senior members. They've been heroes the longest. The other two are they're greenhorns, So
yeah, it was just a funny humor scene that almost was perfect.
Almost had it. So now we cut to the team entering the underground facility where they fight their way to Steppenwolf. Here we see Batman getting his ass handed to him by some parademons. And, as Mark and I alluded to, this is a theme of the movie where, Batman, one of the greatest fighters and one of the greatest minds in the DC universe, is just kind of thrown away as the aging man that he is. Flash helps rescue the scientists, and eventually Steppenwolf corners the heroes and is able to flood the facility. Luckily, there must have been some fish nearby, because Aquaman arrives to drive back the water, allowing our heroes to escape, which, admittedly, it was kind of cool to see him burst out of nowhere and stop the water. But, again, how did he know they were there? He was thousands of miles away. He could have been halfway around the world.
Yeah, it's another like, cool scene that looked good on paper, and they just didn't make the connection to it.
And again, this is something that would have worked had there been an Aquaman movie, that establishes, the Queen, the King, blah, blah, blah. So, after Steppenwolf steals the mother box, Aquaman could have gone to the Queen or whoever, Willem Dafoe, and just, Willem Dafoe could have told him, Arthur, I know this isn't our fight, but you need to go and get that mother box back and help out.
Yeah. And all we get is Amber Heard saying, your mother would do it, you have to do it.
Right, and it's
essentially the explanation. Like I said, I know we keep talking about, because we both are anti-Snyder Cut. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
But the I know we keep talking about things to make this movie longer. I know that's
I
a
think
thing
we're doing
I talk
a
about.
a fine job of doing that.
Yeah, but all they need, like I'm saying, even if they hit like 2:15, where the extra 15 minutes, because this movie is already, like, I checked the time at like 45 minutes to see what was left, and add 15 minutes where it's like a couple like 3 to 5 minute scenes explaining things like him meeting with the people of the Amazon. Of Atlantis, or, a little bit more of the Amazonians, and
Sure.
a little bit more of Star Labs. It's just, they seem to think you come with the knowledge already, which is something the Avengers does not. Marvel do sometimes like an eye rolling for those of us that know those characters better, explain everything. So that nothing is missed.
Right.
Even if like we've seen it 1,000 times in 1,000 different origin stories, they find a way to do it, and so you're not guessing, oh, why can Peter do that? Or, why is Hulk the way he is? Or, like anything like that. Here it's just left up to, oh, you remember from the comics, Star Labs, that's the thing that was in, they'll know.
Yeah, it's not really... This movie definitely suffers from pandering too much to the hardcore comic fan and not enough to the average moviegoer, where and this is where a lot of DC fans will say, like, oh, Marvel's so cookie cutter. Well, that's because Marvel will explain and try to not pander, but try to open the movie up to not just the comic book nerds who will know, like, oh, that's from issue whatever, or like, oh, that part, like the famous Spider-Man scene when the building falls on top of him and he's able to lift the building up from just sheer will. Like that's a famous panel from Spider-Man, and from Civil War where Cap and Iron Man, they, you have that big splash panel where they meet in the middle. That's a famous panel. Yeah. Whereas this is just like, comic book fans are going to know this, but all right, well, what about me? I don't know where this is from.
Yeah, like the biggest thing is that they also, which Marvel movies do not do most of the time, is they expect to, at least the first Avengers movie did this. The other ones, at that point, they're like, if you're joining us at Age of Ultron and you haven't seen the other movies before this, what are you doing?
Right.
At that point, it's like, at least watch Avengers.
We can only hold your hand so long here.
Yeah, like maybe we should have seen Batman before this, but you say there's no real. But maybe that's what they were trying to do. But this movie also makes you have to have watched Wonder Woman, unless if they go into it in Batman v Superman deeply, and I apologize if they do. But they just throw out the Chris Pine character. Just by name, mention him for a few sentences, and that's it.
Well, it's used to create a little turmoil with the team, and it's just kind of like, well, out of nowhere. Like, I guess we have to show them being at odds with one another, where it's not really earned, whereas in Avengers, it was earned. You start to get the uneasiness, like right out of the gate. No one trusts each other.
Here's a simple change that I just thought of while we were talking. The easiest way to explain that to a casual audience would be when Bruce and Diana are having their fight, where she pushes them, into the thing, or whatever she knocks them into, is you have Cyborg, who has all this information in his head. Why not have Flash lean in and go, what the hell are they talking about? Or something. Sure. And then he just leans in and says like a sentence or two about the guy. Oh, it's this guy. He was a World War I person, and,
yeah, he died.
They were
saving.
Whatever. Like, just quick sentence, like, and because Ezra's Flash is set up to be that character, right? That and he could go, oh,
right. He's the audience. Okay. He could be the audience.
Yeah, that's what Marvel does better than anything. They pick one person. Most of the time, it's Happy. In some cases, to just be that. If you need somebody to go, wait, what? Again,
right. There's someone there to help fill in the gaps.
Yeah. And that's all they needed to do for that. I'll be interested to see the reviews on the Snyder Cut to see if he does stuff like that, because he's not going to get any reshoots. So he's got to do what he has with it. So even if he can get them in for voiceovers, I don't know, ADR, I don't even know what he can do. But it's just simple stuff like that where I think they were more worried about, they wanted to be and you mentioned this, we're the movie for the comic book fan. not like Marvel, So they were trying to get that instead of seeing that there's enough room for both movies to be ridiculously well received.
Sure. No one's saying one can't be better than the other.
Yeah, I mean, there's fanboys out there that'll stick to one side or the other, which is why the Snyder Cut exists. That's why most of the Snyder Cut people exist, is the sense that, for the most part, there are people that really want this movie to be good, have nothing to do with Marvel.
Right.
Like, they're like, I love these characters, I really want it to be good. That's fine. They can hold their hope on the Snyder Cut. They may be right. Who knows? But the ones that irk me the most online are the ones that want this Snyder Cut to be good so bad.
Just to rub it in Marvel's face.
Yeah, to show DC is better. I've said it since I was a kid reading the comics.
Yep.
They just want it to be so they can rub it in the casual fan's face that this is a real superhero movie.
Right.
And I think that's disingenuous, and that's where a lot of this movie comes across. And we'll get to that as we move into the big reveal of this movie. It's coming up.
Not too long.
By the way they find the third is hilarious. Go ahead.
So anyway, I was just going to say, after the fight, Cyborg is able to recover the third mother box. And as the team analyzes it... go ahead.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, we have that, it's called the whatever his dad called. Yeah, it's been in Star Labs the whole time.
Yep. Where the Parademons were and Steppenwolf was, overlooked it. So as they're analyzing the cube, Bruce concludes that with a strong enough blast, it could bring Superman back from the dead, claiming the world needs him. Why they don't use Wonder Woman, I don't know. I guess boobs. Maybe that's why. She could be the beacon of hope for the world, right?
Well, no, he says that, but, that she needs to be the leader. Like, why did you hide away?
She needs to be the leader of the team, but not what the world needs. I took it as a difference where, you can lead the team, whereas, but you're not really good enough to bring the world hope. Like, she's just as powerful as Superman, and she's been around longer.
I think he's just desperate at this point, Batman, and is obviously processing his guilt over the death of Superman.
Sure.
I think his point was when he first initially made the point. Then the second speech with her is where he actually does really well. The first time he mentions it, I think that's when they had their little fight. And he essentially says that you just went away for like a chunk of time after your lover died.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have been like Superman saving the world and giving hope, but you hid away.
It's great because after the end of Wonder Woman, she talks about how she's going to be there to help man, but she misses out on World War II, Vietnam, and then she just decides to come back in the 80s. Like, this seems like a pretty happening time. That was a good time to hang out.
I think Wonder Woman 84 is actually going to show her doing stuff during that time, which will completely retcon this, by the way.
I don't trust DC to do that.
No, like I'm just saying, like he even said that she went away until Luthor showed the photo or whatever.
She went into hiding.
But then they're going to have Wonder Woman 84, which
again, like malls are around now. I can go shopping. Girl stuff.
Oh boy, but yeah, it's going to be. I'm telling you, Wonder Woman 84 is going to be obviously on its
much
worst day will be much better than this.
Oh yeah, I mean that movie's going to make $1 billion. So. After some initial pushback from Diana, we get a hilarious scene of the Flash and Cyborg digging up Superman's body. Nothing's funnier than exhuming bodies, right?
Yeah, I do like the human moment from Barry here, where he turns to Victor and goes, I could have been done this a lot faster, by myself, but it just doesn't seem right,
To me, it's just misplaced humor. It really should have been just a very solemn. You let it sink in, like the repercussions of what can happen here, and just like how far are we willing to go?
I think that's what he was trying. Yeah.
We're
sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we're essentially desecrating the grave of the greatest hero ever made, and they're cracking jokes about it. Like, okay.
Like, I think that's what they were trying to get at. Was the reason he didn't do it like he normally would is because he respected the body so much, but they just didn't know how to tell that without, using it. And I've watched Joss Whedon, since Buffy. So it was one of those, he couldn't tell that story without throwing a little like wink or, little snarky one-liner.
Right.
Like Alfred has a few of those in this movie where there's no reason for him to say a snarky line. And he even makes like double entendre at one point. in the film, which felt very Whedon.
Yeah.
But you know, like that whole scene is supposed to be would have been better with those two. Like they almost got there. This movie is a lot of almost got there.
Yeah, there was the making of some stuff there, and I'm sure
you know,
again Snyder fans were like, "Well, that was Snyder's vision." Yeah,
It,
sure. If it makes you
has
feel
nothing
better.
to do. You could make that scene longer and it wouldn't be better. My almost there is that it needs to be rewritten and reshot to work because it's the perfect opportunity to have two of the new people. You know, one, you know, is kind of geeky, socially awkward, you know, and Victor was this star professional, not professional, you know.
He was
like
a high school football
player, probably very popular, very social butterfly. And they're two opposite characters sitting there digging up Superman's body. Like, just, they could have had a very solemn conversation about what they were doing, how they got here, you know, this is fucked up, isn't it? All this stuff going on.
Right, like they drew the short straws, essentially.
Yeah, and it's just like, and essentially all it becomes is a joke about Barry could have done it in 2 minutes.
Right.
And by the way, that is the simplest casket I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, he was a simple man. He was a man of small tastes, I guess.
Here's
simple
Superman.
taste.
Yeah, here's Smallville taste.
Right. It's just in a little box, you know.
Here's a simple man in a simple wooden box.
Right.
He's not.
That's not Superman.
Nope, not at all.
So
I was almost half expecting the body not to.
That would have been great. So they bring the body to the Kryptonian ship and it's still in the middle of Metropolis for whatever reason from Man of Steel, which is the dumbest thing ever because it destroyed Metropolis in Man of Steel. Then Doomsday comes out of it and almost destroys Metropolis again. You think after that they're like, all right, maybe we should move this out of here.
Yeah, maybe we'll see with Central City or right Central City, right? Yeah, Central City. See if they have any room for it.
Yeah, there's got to be somewhere for this giant ship where we can... I mean, in Batman v Superman, they make a point to show that there's a piece of land that's uninhabited for the big final fight. So they could have moved it there. So,
yeah, and by the way, I think it's another thing that hurts the movie, and it's no fault of the movie at all. This is one of the few things that's no fault of this movie, is the fact that DC is set on fictional cities.
Mm-hmm.
I think hurts it as a lot of Marvel stuff is actually in the real world.
Right, yeah.
So trying to figure out, like, okay, where is Metropolis compared to,
it's right across the river from
Gotham
City.
And then Central City's over here? Like,
yeah,
like trying
it's essentially, I guess it's New York. It's the tri-state area, I guess. Right, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Yeah, I'm assuming if you're talking big cities, like big metropolitan cities, it would essentially be New York, Philly, Boston. It's essentially the proximity.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. I'm assuming in terms of city breakdown, it's probably more like Chicago, D.C., and New York.
Yeah, probably. I know Gotham is Chicago and New York kind of amalgamation.
Yeah, I feel Gotham is closer to Chicago.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the Nolan having those establishing shots of the river,
right,
in Chicago, and that Metropolis would seem more like a New York. And then I've never heard about Central City, but I would imagine that sounds like it would be more of a political DC type hub.
I'm not 100% sure of it either, but you might be right.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the other thing is that these cities I have no idea, like I can't fathom distance, and then also I think there's like a real Russian city they have in this movie, or at least they make reference to Russia.
Right, yeah, they do go to Russia. So Russia is canon in the DCEU.
Yeah. So they
needed to know that.
Yeah, and they get on this ship, and this explanation, you can go ahead and say what happens here.
Right, so they lower Clark's body into the gene pool in the Kryptonian ship. And again, the team kind of wonders, is this a good idea? What if he freaks out? To which Bruce slyly says, I have a contingency plan. And everyone in the theater knows it's Lois Lane. There's no big gun that's an actual gun, or it's not kryptonite or anything like that. It's Lois Lane.
And why else
you're not
introduce her earlier?
Right. So they're through the speed of the Flash, running fast enough, touching the mother box. As it hits the gene pool, it successfully brings Superman back, who immediately flies off groggy, not knowing where he is, but shirtless and buff and sexy. And the League goes to confront him just to let him know, hey, are we cool? We're buddies. And Clark proceeds to prove why the world really doesn't need the League, as he makes short work of them.
Yeah, I was wondering my thing, like, why does all of them go? Like,
yeah, I bring up...
Shouldn't it just be Diana?
Diana and probably Batman, but, I mean, we get to that in a little bit. And it's a cool scene where Superman doesn't really know what's going on, and he perceives the Justice League as a threat, and he just mops the floor with them. There's a good meme where it shows the poster of the Justice League, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Batman, Cyborg, and above it says, I'm ruining it, but it's a picture of Superman, and above it says 99%, like the battery life is 99%. And then with the rest of the Justice League, it makes it 100%. So, I mean, that's essentially what becomes of this movie now. The Justice League is useless. They're a joke. Because now Superman's back, and he just totally annihilates them. He throws them all around. He's able to catch the Flash, who's moving at superhuman speeds.
By the way, that shot was actually cool, where his head starts to turn.
And the only cool scene in this movie is when he catches
fear
Flash.
On Barry's face.
Yeah, like, oh shit. But I chuckled at that. So I give this movie 1 point for that. So congratulations. So Batman arrives at the scene. Superman immediately realizes, hey, you're the guy who got me killed. Picks him up, threatens to kill him in his British accent. I don't know if anyone else notices that. He slips accents there. Yeah. And this is when Batman calls in for the big gun. And Lois shows up. So
they wanted the audience to know that she shows up in a Maybach.
Oh, because again, Bruce is super rich.
yeah. It just zooms in on her getting out of the car, and I'm like, oh, they must have sponsored it because it just center of the screen. It just says, Maybach.
Couldn't have just gone with a taxi. I taxied her in. So Superman sees Lois and throws the empty Batman suit aside. And he goes to Lois, picks her up, and flies back to Smallville. While this is going on, the Justice League forgets that the mother box is just totally left alone here, and Steppenwolf just kind of stumbles upon it, like, oh, I'll take this. And
bye.
And, yep, see you later. And then he just fucks off. Bye. Thanks for the mother box. Bye. So he just, he screws off to wherever he's going to go, and the rest of the league's like, oh, man. Yeah. Probably should have kept an eye on that box. So now the Justice League gets together. They realize that they're kind of screwed. Superman's in the wind, but they realize Cyborg is able to pinpoint where they're going, and it's to a Russian town where Steppenwolf is preparing to unite the three boxes to call in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
What I wanted to say with and it goes back to, again, another 3-minute scene that they could have put in a movie. Is I know they wanted the reveal of Lois, but it's so obvious who he means.
Yeah.
Like, just have the scene. Like, have Bruce going to explain to Lois what his plan is.
And
even
getting
in a flashback,
her okay.
Like as she steps out of the car, flashback for
I
to them arguing.
It would have made more sense if this was the first time we see Lois Lane in the movie.
Yeah.
Because we already established that she's in it. We're never going to see her again. Come on. Yeah. We know that's not true. So it would have been cool, like you said, maybe Bruce kind of goes to Lois and he says, you don't even have to have him explain the plan. It's just like he knocks on the door, she answers it, and he goes, I want to talk to you about something, and then cut away. So, I mean, so we know that he's not just doing it to be selfish. He's got the okay of Lois Lane.
Yeah, even, I'm thinking, as someone who's watched a lot of movies, you could even do, when she steps out of the car, you can do a quick flashback to him knocking on the door, him saying, I need to talk to you about something. Can I come in? Explain, and then just have like a quick sentence of her going, are you sure? Is he going to come back fine? Like all the stuff that, Diana said. Diana basically said all of Lois's lines, by the way, in this explanation. Are you sure she's going to come back? Yeah, I think once he sees you, or, I think you can help with that. And then go back to the scene. Like, that's it. Like, I'm not saying you need these grandiose, make it a 3-hour movie. Like, just a little, even if it's a quick, like, stylized flash of a flashback. Like, sort of, like, chopped up, edited, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
Like, sort of a flashback in that moment. Or even have an intercut, like, jump cuts, as she's walking towards him, of Bruce asking her. you know, and that could have been her introduction. You don't need that stuff early movie.
Right.
You know, and it works better. And there you eliminate a 5-minute scene and add one, and you keep the same length time. But I guess they needed to pay Diane Lane for the next scene coming up. So she wanted to be in 2 scenes, or 3 scenes technically.
Right. So as you alluded, we find Clark back in Smallville. He's on the farm with Lois, and they have a nice scene together. And again, there's some corny jokes thrown in there for no reason. And then we cut back to the League preparing for the climactic battle, realizing that they're in over their heads, and they get the suit up scene where Batman's got a weird suit on. Everyone's preparing for battle.
I don't want to gloss over it, but I thought it was really good having, Arthur do the whole speech he gave and then showing at the end.
The lasso.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm too harsh on this movie. I hated that. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool.
No, because I knew something was up when he turns and he goes, and you're gorgeous. Like,
right, yeah, that's not something he would say.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he would have said that out loud. And then her reaction.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, and then her reaction where, like, normally you would think she would get offended, but she knows what's going on. And she just kind of, oh, really?
And then they do it.
Yeah, that's what you think.
They do it in the hand.
And then they do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Amber Heard breaks in and breaks a glass over her head.
Cat fight. So as they're traveling to the final destination, they realize that there is a sort of force field surrounding the silo where Steppenwolf is. But Bruce tells the team that he has a plan to get in. And believe it or not, it's just him committing suicide. That's the great plan of Batman. Again, master strategist. Yeah, I'm going to charge head first, and if they kill me, they kill me.
Yeah, and I love how Arthur is the one that goes, wait, so your plan was to die? What are you, stupid?
Yeah.
Essentially, it's his reaction.
Again, I don't know who wrote the Batman character in this, Snyder, Whedon, but, fuck you guys.
And also that protective dome thing.
They get through it.
You could only do that in Russia, like
in Russia,
anywhere else in the world, we're like
over you.
So in Russia, it's just St. Petersburg.
Right. I think the problem here is that they try to have a human element to the fight here because it's seen from the eyes of the heroes and a family. They're like, who cares? You introduce these people for no reason. They're like, oh.
Well, you only introduced them for the Superman scene, to be honest.
Yeah, and again, it's pointless. We don't know how many people are there. It looks deserted because it's a shithole of a town.
Yeah, it's an old nuclear power plant.
Right. Like, oh my God, there's so many people here. Oh, okay, where did that come from? We just saw the one family. But they battle their way to Steppenwolf, and again are easily overpowered until Superman arrives, and you get the classic. Superman theme, which was kind of cool. I didn't mind that. And again, this is a huge problem. Superman comes out of nowhere, and he's a game genie. The game, at this point, you put in the cheat code, you have the Konami code in there, and the game's done. You're going to win. You put on God mode. So the League does nothing up until this point except get their asses kicked. And then Superman shows up, and it's like, we can kind of mop up while Superman takes care of Steppenwolf.
Yeah, and essentially, I love that he shows up, kicks his ass, and also I love that Steppenwolf knows he's from Krypton, but yet has not prepared for this possibility. Like,
I guess because he does make the Kryptonian,
Yeah, you would think that even though he thinks he's dead, at this point, that he would be like, oh, maybe I should have some kryptonite around me. I don't know.
Or you would think he's strong enough to at least put up a fight.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
it's because Steppenwolf is a relative of Darkseid. So, I think he's a new god. So, he's still strong. Superman wipes the floor with this guy. It's like he's nobody.
Yeah, and I also like how speaking of gods real fast, I like how they had that opening scene where they all fight him back. And they're like, yes, and the gods joined us. And don't explain who those gods are. If I didn't know
you're just supposed to suspect. Like, I guess that's...
Zeus.
Right. Ares shows up, but it's not a weird British man.
Yeah, I was like, if I didn't know my history, I would have no idea who these people are that just showed up.
Well, yeah, that's standard for the DC, right? Just like, look at all this cool stuff. What is it? Don't worry, just It's cool.
You could have Diana go, and some say even the gods like Zeus and whatever, you know, and I would be like, oh, okay.
Right. How cool is that? Zeus fighting alongside a Green Lantern.
Yeah, like, I digress. But I love that he comes in and kicks ass, Spider-Man. Jesus. Superman. Great if Spider-Man showed up.
And then Spider-Man shows up. Superman yells, under ruse. And Spider-Man zips down.
That he kicks all kinds of ass, and then he goes, citizens, and then leaves. And it would have been great. It's a PG-13 movie, but I would just like have to cut to Batman going, oh, fuck. We finally got the thing that can beat up Steppenwolf, and he just bounces for Steppenwolf's taken care of.
Well, I mean, Batman is too busy just getting his ass handed to him by, and he's using a gun again. God, like this movie gets Batman all wrong. It's terrible. I don't know why people want to see more of this.
I do love that people showed the gif of him being like an old man when he gets up off the ground.
Something's bleeding.
Yeah, it was like, Justice League was worth it just for this scene.
I disagree heavily. But as we're almost at the end here, God willing, this week, God damn it. So as Mark alluded to, Superman helps Flash evacuate some citizens. He carries a building which would have collapsed under its own weight. And Cyborg is able to... Superman evacuates and helps Cyborg pull apart the mother boxes from uniting.
Which I gotta say, that was actually, in my opinion, some good dialogue there. Where, he's explaining what's going on, and then he says, as Superman says something, Spencer's like, Big Bang? Like when that happens, and he goes, yeah, but I think we can handle it. Sort of like, we're a lot stronger than the rest of them in terms of taking this. Sort of like a good wink and a nod.
It would have been great if Superman died immediately after that. Yeah. Like, oh my God, we lost him again. Son of a bitch.
But then you had to have the weed and humor when he's on the ground. He's like, I take it back.
Right. I mean, it was kind of like a buddy cop moment. Like, oh, that was way worse than I anticipated.
Yeah.
It was like the scene from The Other Guys when they get caught in the explosion.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that hurts so much. How do people walk away from this?
Yeah. Yeah, like I was going for the humor, but the actual solemn moment, like not solemn, like dramatic moment of him going, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm separating these. You got to help me push them apart, and there's going to be a big boom, and we'll be good. But I think we're good. And thumbs up.
Sure.
It was the first time in this movie when a plan was explained, and everybody was on board.
Right.
Like, and it made sense. Like, I don't understand what Cyborg could do to get it done, but his thing was, I can separate them. You're strong enough to pull them apart. Let's do this.
Rah, rah. Let's do it. This is an excellent plan. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So after the mother box is pulled apart, Steppenwolf, now consumed by fear, is overrun by his own parademons, and he's just kind of disappears after that. I guess he's brought back to Apocalypse. They never really say.
What?
I don't know.
Quick question. When does Superman get the power to be cold?
Oh, he's had that for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of the ones I know.
Yeah, he even has that in Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. Yeah. So they didn't just make that up. He's had that for decades, I think. So after the fight, we get a whole, rundown of where our heroes are. Bruce buys back the Kent farm for Clark, saying he bought the bank that bought the farm, where he could have really just bought the farm again. But I guess he needs to flex.
It does lead to a good line from If Delivered Better would have landed. Is Clark goes, why did you do that? And he goes, I don't know, it's a reaction. Like Bruce's reaction is not to just do the one thing. It's like you said, the flex. Like sort of just, he could have just bought out the foreclosure or bought the house itself. But no, Bruce is like, fuck it. I don't want this ever to happen again to anybody. I'm buying the entire bank.
Right. And then Wayne Enterprises goes under because he has too many, he gets sanctioned by the government for having a monopoly, and it's a whole legal battle. But
So the Mets beat the Yankees. What did you do, Bruce? I bought the Yankees.
Yeah, I bought the Yankees. I bought the Mets and the Yankees.
The Yankees. Make sure they don't play each other.
Right. We also get a shot of Diana and Bruce going to Wayne Manor, where Bruce says he's going to rebuild it as a sort of base of operations, and says that we'll add a table that could be that'll have more members. It'll have more members because they think they're getting a sequel to this god-awful mess.
boy.
Clark returns to the Daily Planet, and no one questions where he's been because the people in Metropolis are just idiots, I guess. Like, oh, it's convenient that you came back the same day Superman came back. That can't be a coincidence.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah, and also,
right.
there was some significance to him going in without his glasses. I don't know if they were going to pay that off, that they will never get it.
Nah,
but
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I just think it was laziness. We see the Flash gets a job at the police station where he's going to help free his dad.
Again, a nice end to his origin story in this movie.
Right. Yeah, it would have been cool to get that before this, but what can you do? And then we get a post-credit scene with an awesome Deathstroke that would have been cool to see, Joe Manganiello. And then Jesse Eisenberg, unfortunately, reprises his role as Lex Luthor, probably the worst Lex Luthor, and that's with Kevin Spacey being Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, we have to separate the actor art in this case.
I'm not even doing that. The guy who molested someone was a better Lex Luthor than Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, boy.
That's how terrible. That's how terrible Jesse Eisenberg.
And I think we both agreed in our chat about this that the only way to have saved this scene, outside of not having Jesse Eisenberg be Lex Luthor, was to have him use the word Legion.
Right, the Legion of Doom. Yeah.
Yeah, just go. Oh, it sounds like they want to start a league, and instead of saying we should start one of our own, Yeah,
that sounds like something like a bully kid would say. Like, oh, you started your own clubhouse? Well, I'm going to make my clubhouse. Ooh.
Yeah, and essentially it's what they're doing. But just sticking with it, we're working with the parameters. Just sticking with that line, he could have went, oh, I heard he's starting a league or whatever. Well, why don't we gather a legion or something like that?
Right.
Not
what's
make
better than a
reference
league?
to
A legion.
or something like that. Even
or
gather
we are
a
legion. Yeah.
Or something like,
You could have said almost anything else, and it would have been infinitely cooler than
better.
We're going to make our own league.
Yeah. It's just, did they not know if they had the rights to the Legion of Doom?
They have to have it. It's a Warner Brothers commodity.
I know. It's just like, it makes no sense why he doesn't. Like, if you're catering to the comic book fans, just dropping the word Legion, is enough. Like, they know. The casual audience will have no idea, but...
Even the Harley Quinn animated series uses the Legion of Doom. They mention the Legion of Doom and everything. Joker's there, Lex Luthor's there, Black Manta is there. I mean, just use the Legion of Doom, dummies.
Yeah,
God, that's the shit. That is the cherry on this shit sundae.
Yeah, it's amazing that, as much as I enjoyed Birds of Prey compared to this hunk of trash that I watched today, all the DC movies I've seen, even Man of Steel, it seems to just at its best, just about get there, but it doesn't either get to the line or exceed it like Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Like Iron Man's what, a C level Avenger?
Well, like B. He's a founding member, so he's a B level of character.
But that first Iron Man movie with RDJ. And it's just like, boom, he's like 18.
Oh, yeah. Overnight, he's the number one comic character.
Yeah, and it's just like, you could have done that you had the talent to do it with at least two of the people in this movie to exceed their level on the scale. Jason Momoa tries his best, and I hear he does a good job of it in Aquaman.
Yeah, he's fine in Aquaman. Again, that movie, solid movie. Do I think it was worth $1 billion? No. It's a CGI fun fest. But again, I mean, that's most action films, but he's okay.
Yeah, but he exceeds what Aquaman's always the butt of the joke. They even make him the butt of the jokes.
They make Batman the butt of the jokes.
Well, he says the one line, he's like, do you talk to fish?
Right, I heard you talk to fish.
Fish, So his performance increased it. And if they would have just done more with the Ezra Miller Flash, he has the talent to have exceeded the expectation for Barry Allen. Mm-hmm. But they don't do any of that. They just seem that it's enough that these people are here, that they showed up, give us our $600 million or more.
I'm going to tell you how to make this movie better, and it's real simple. And the Snyder Cut's going to do the opposite of it. You don't have Superman in. He just died. You have to earn getting him back. Getting him back immediately is a terrible tease. It's not earned. Because it renders the Justice League moot. They do nothing throughout this film except get their asses kicked and just bumble around. And then Superman shows up and cleans up. So what you do is the world lost its greatest hero. now you have the Justice League to kind of pick up the slack, where, you know, the world can feel safe again. Like, oh, you know, Superman's not here, but there are still heroes out there. The age of the hero is still with us. We have other people to look up to. Getting Superman back just is like, oh, all right, well, who needs these other guys around? We have Superman back. So bringing Superman back in the next movie.
Yeah, you could have made this without seeing Batman v. You could make this the, like, quote unquote dark middle chapter. Like, maybe they lose. Maybe
this is the Empire Strikes Back.
This is Infinity War. You know, Steppenwolf succeeds.
Yeah, an apocalypse shows up at the end. Like oh man, like now we're in over our head. You know.
Now we got to get Superman back.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. That's how you do it.
Yeah, and that's essentially saves most of this movie because not most of it. There's plenty of other problems with it, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, not trying to be original and trying to be too much like Marvel at times. Is that you take all that Superman time out of the film, add it to making people care about the other characters in this film, and it's a better movie. Like the reason Endgame has such impactful moments, even though I think we'll both agree Infinity War is the better movie, is that they earned all that from what they did in the previous movie.
Of course.
You know, everything they do in this movie does not build off, as far as I can tell, Batman v Superman at all.
No, they threw as much in as they could just to get to the Justice League. It showed. Yeah. It was very sloppy. The plot was all over the place. It was very incoherent. It was just like, oh, look, here's Wonder Woman. Remember, like, she's a part of this now. And like, all right, here's Doomsday. What? Why? It's just like, what's going on here, you know?
Yeah, like Batman v Superman, I think had the best. It was the good first step because there's only the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get the three of them together. How do they meet? Fine, we figured that out. And then this movie could have been for the other three, or at worst, you have the individual Aquaman, Flash movies in between.
Right. Introduce
them, and then the new character for this movie is Cyborg.
Sure.
And you learn about him and Star Labs and all that, you know, in this movie.
The problem with what's going to happen is, and you know what? I hope the Snyder Cut fans enjoy the movie. I don't think there's anything to really salvage from this Drek. They're going to add, like, oh, Hal Jordan's going to be in it. The Martian Manhunter's going to be in it. Like, all right, well, they're just going to mention them. They don't affect the plot of the movie. They're not showing up at the final battle. They're like, oh, they're going to show Apocalypse. Awesome. It's not going to matter because you're not going to get anything out of it. You're just going to see him. Like, who cares at that point? That would be like if Marvel had bombed and like, oh, well, we're going to show you Thanos, but we didn't get a chance to. Like, oh, great. Thanks for that, I guess.
Yeah. And just, if they would have had Steppenwolf win, quote unquote, and Apocalypse, like the end of the movie is him landing, you know, sort of like how the snap, you know, is the end of
Infinity War. So you would have beaten Marvel to that big twist. Like, oh, shit, the hero's lost.
Yeah, and then you just scramble like Infinity War did in Endgame for the first hour or less, depending on what your mandate was.
Well, and that's when you get the Flashpoint. You have the Flash be a more pivotal character where he is sent back to try to warn Bruce or whoever, and it makes sense. It ties into Batman v Superman. This is just...
Yeah.
Or even, you could even tie into that where Superman becomes like a dictator and bringing him back was the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So now
there's so many things to do.
Right.
And they just did the wrong thing.
Right. They did a cookie cutter movie and it suffered for it. I have no sympathy for Zack Snyder, the Snyder Cut fans, because this movie was garbage. Why you would want more of it is beyond me. I love Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. I like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I enjoy seeing them play these characters, but there's nothing to salvage here. You're like, all right, cool, you're going to get Superman in the black outfit. Whoop-de-doo. You're going to get some CGI. Awesome. Like, is it really worth spending $30+ million? To me, no, but...
It depends on how much HBO Max gets.
Right, and I think they're really banking on people. I don't know. You have HBO Go, HBO Max. When does it end? But I digress. That is 2017's Zack Snyder / Joss Whedon's Justice. It was a mess. I hated it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Would you like to plug anything?
Yeah, we'll do it real fast because this episode is running long, as we tend to do.
We don't have Ant to keep us in line.
Exactly. Stranger Damies airs every Wednesday. New episode up right before this. And They Call Us a Movie. New episode aired on Monday. And then we have the Final Fantasy VII Remake spoiler cast is going up on Wednesday. You can catch both of those on iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you get a podcast. You'll be able to just search the name and find it. So you got those to look forward to. Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Be sure to, follow us there. The Game Bowl Podcast has a YouTube channel, which you can find on the Twitter feed. Just go there, subscribe, share all the good stuff you do over on YouTube. And then just, we're getting pretty close to, doing some cool things on the Game Ball Pod, and Stranger Damies is barreling towards mid-level to epic level stuff. So good things looking up on the podcast there.
I love it. I'm Dan Aquino. You can follow me at DAquino122 on Twitter. As Mark said, Stranger Damies on Instagram and on Twitter, at Stranger Damies. Please rate and review our podcast on iTunes. It helps us out a lot, and we always appreciate it. Rate and review all of our podcasts if you have if you have a second. Why not? We all have time. We're all stuck at home. So yeah, we greatly appreciate it. And this has been They Called This a Movie, with 2017's Justice League, directed by Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. So for Mark Myers, I'm Dan Aquino, telling Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon to go fuck themselves.